So, do you ever get a feeling in your gut to do or not do something? Do you follow it or do you pass it off as nothing important? Hi, I'm Diane Hatz and welcome to Hearth Talks. I'm so excited to have a guest today, Martha Arnett. Martha is a psychotherapist, professional intuitive, and master life coach with over 30 years of experience. She helps women reconnect with their intuition so they can trust themselves, make clear and confident decisions, and live in alignment with ease, peace, and integrity. Her work blends deep inner healing with spiritual guidance to help women come home to who they truly are. Martha, welcome to Hearth Talks.
Woohoo! Hey, Diane. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh,
Thanks
it's
for
so
having me on.
Oh, thank you for coming on.
Mhm.
So let's just jump right in.
Okay.
Can you just share how your journey into exploring intuition began?
Yes. So whenever anyone asks me this question, I think about my childhood. And I grew up in rural Michigan. And I spent a lot of time, if I wasn't working on the farm, I was wandering the woods with my dog. And why I think this is an important uh, piece of my connection to my intuition is I got to really know who I was in those quiet moments. So I got to know what my internal baseline felt like so that when information came in for me, I would know who I was and what was coming in from the outside. And as we talk, Diane, I'm going to share with your listeners how important that is to know who you are in your quiet moments so that the information that comes in, you can tell, is it intuition? Is it an emotion? Is it a, whatever, what is the difference? So I kind of have always been connected to my intuition. Even through my adolescence, I stayed pretty connected and didn't always listen to it, but I knew what it was telling me. So I also want to say I had a mom who, when we would get hurt, so she didn't know what she was doing, but when we would get hurt, she would say, close your eyes, go inside. Close your eyes and go inside. And I don't know what we were supposed to do in there, but whatever. I went inside. And she didn't guide us about what we were supposed to do. It was just, we were supposed to relax our bodies. So, I mean, she kind of gave me that, and she was one of the first people that ever did hypnotherapy, not first people, but she was in middle school and she did hypnotherapy to have her tonsils removed. So she was sort of into this a little bit. Yeah. So that's probably how.
So just to start at the beginning, how would you define intuition in your own words?
Yes. Intuition is your inner GPS. It's your inner knowing. It's those quiet whispers that lead you to your highest, most clearest calling. It's that inner knowing. That would be the easiest way. It's also your sixth sense. No, we have five senses. It's your sixth. Sorry.
No, it's funny though, because I just recorded a video on higher self and I used the analogy that your intuition is your GPS and that your higher self is the satellite.
Yes. I love that. Exactly. Yeah.
So what are some common misconceptions people have about intuition?
That only some people have it. That it's for certain people. We are all, and I like to say, if you put your fingers on your neck and you feel a pulse, you have intuition. Or on your wrist, right? You have intuition. Everybody has intuition. I would say that's the biggest misconception, is that it's woo-woo or it's something unique to special people. It's not. Some of us have a clearer channel for many reasons, but every single person has access to intuition.
So would you say intuition is based on feelings and then leading from that? Like, how does someone know the difference between intuition, fear, anxiety, etc.?
It's a great question, and that's a question I get in my practice all of the time. And I would say it is not feelings. Intuition actually is a very neutral bit of information that comes in. So it's the opposite of a feeling. So it's almost like you're washing your dishes or taking a shower is often when people get intuitive hits, sometime when their brain is not engaged with something else. And it's that thing that drops in. You weren't really thinking about it. And it's just this piece of information you get that's very neutral. It's not connected to a feeling. It wasn't like you had a thought and then a feeling, and then you're like, "Ooh, is that my intuition?" That would generally be no. It would be your intuition is something that comes in neutrally as a piece of information for you.
So, can you explain how intuition manifests differently for people? I'm assuming that there's different ways one can key into their intuition.
Absolutely. Some people get a gut feeling, which is probably the most common way that people talk about intuition is I have a gut feeling, which I love. That's just it's a very normalized way of saying it's my intuition, which I actually love that. Some of us get images, about information. We get a thought. It's like it's an image of something that you want, know you need to do, something like that. A lot of us get full body knowings. I'll probably tell a story coming up where I got a full body knowing. It was just like everything in me knew that this is what needed to be done. And some people get it in words. You might hear something. You might hear, like on our podcast, Angela, the Intuitive Voice podcast, Angela talks about she got a big, it was a sentence. In intuition, I want to say, is often simple. It is not complex. It is like, hers was like, take the job. It's very simple. It's very neutral, and it's matter of fact. And sometimes it usually, Diane, surprises you. It's not something your brain, your intellect thought of.
So, surprises you in what way?
Because your intellect may be like, no, thank you. I don't want to take that job, or no, thank you. I don't want to move the family, or no, right? Your intuition is there for your highest calling, your highest good. Doesn't mean it's what your intellect, your ego wants. It's what you need. That's another really important piece.
So, are you saying that, let's just stick with the job analogy. So, you've gone for an interview and it's high paying and it's in entertainment, something that you think be so cool. So into your intellectual, you're thinking in your head, oh yeah, I got to take that job. Oh, I really, and that intuition is just sort of it's something that washes over you. That's like, no,
that's right.
It's not verbal. I don't know how else to.
Exactly. It's not verbal, and it's not I love that you gave the example. There's a lot of money. It's maybe in the right location. There's fancy people working there that might help you in your career, but there's this deeper sense of either, I always say sense because that's how I get it. It's like the sense of like, I literally, if it's a no for me, I start to get sick in my stomach. I'm like, oh, I cannot do that. I cannot date that person. I cannot take that job. I cannot go on that trip, whatever it is. Or someone might hear a big fat no in their head with an exclamation point.
So what's one simple practice that a person could do to start to key in and to feel their intuition? Because I'm assuming a lot of us have so much chatter going on all the time.
That's it. That's what I would say. And that's what I do when I work with clients is we begin to help them clear out the chatter. So I always talk about intuition as a channel. So we all have the channel, always, but it can get really staticky if you have so much input. And then what I mean by static is you can't hear your own inner knowing. You wouldn't hear your intuitive hits when they came in, or you wouldn't feel them because you're too clogged up with chatter, with external input is what I call it. So I would start by encouraging people to begin to create a little space in their life, a little quiet time. It doesn't mean like sitting on a meditation pillow, or it can. I mean, that's beautiful. It could mean walking without input, right? Without a phone, ideally without music, maybe, or music with words. No, don't listen to a podcast. You just creating space, just creating some space for your system to be able to calm. Because honestly, Diane, the most important thing about it's not just because once you can hear your intuition, then you need to trust your intuition. So a lot of intuition is once you clear the channel is learning how to trust it, trust yourself.
So before the trust, how do you help clients tap in to their intuition? Like we go for a walk. Okay. So we're strengthening, but how do we start to tap into it? Do you
we have
affirmations or?
Yeah. So I have practices. So I have a really cool 5-day challenge. It's on my website. It's a free 5-day challenge. But the reason I bring that up is because I've created 5 fun little exercises. So let's say you're on your walk and you're giving yourself some space. You begin to play. So you would play like, you would think of mini decisions. So maybe this isn't on a walk, but one of the exercises is pie or cake. Let's say you have 2 desserts you want to choose, or you want a red sweater or a green sweater. You pose the question to yourself and you listen. You're going to see, do I hear red or green? Do I feel pie or cake? What is it, right? Little inconsequential things. You want to start there. This builds the intuitive muscle. You begin to trust yourself. Those are very low stakes, right? So we want to start in that space of low stake intuition building, which would be clear out, and then little tiny practices like that. I also have one, Diane, where we go on a nature walk and you look around, and because it's a sixth sense, you're like, what do I smell? Okay, there's that sense. What do I hear? I hear birds. I hear my feet crunching on the right. And so there's lots of ways to build up this sixth sense. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hear you when you say to go for a walk and hear the birds and to tap into your senses. But with like the red and green sweater, if it was me 15 years ago and you said scrambled eggs or over easy, I would go, I don't know.
Yeah.
So how do you break through that? Like, do people know deep down what they want? Like, let's stick with red and green sweater. How, and then I would be like, well, am I just choosing red just because I'm choosing red, or is it really red I want?
So, I mean, if the clothing means nothing to you, like if clothing doesn't impact how you feel, that wouldn't be a great exercise for you. You would want to, right? Like for me, if I put on something and I don't feel energetically good in what I'm wearing, then I'm like, this feels off. But that's important for me. It might not be for the person that's doing the exercise. Maybe it's food, right? So we want to do small, because for me, it's like, oh, how do I feel when I put the red sweater on? How do I feel when I eat the scrambled eggs? I keep checking in, and there's no right or wrong, right, with those decisions. It's just for me, how do I feel? How do I feel? Does this align with how I feel on the inside? Does this decision support my inner knowing? Now, if you're going to ask me, what if I have no sense of that inner knowing? I'm also a psychotherapist. So a lot of it is working with someone that can help you clear out some of those inner blocks and get a sense of who you are and what is your inner knowing. If somebody doesn't have any sense of their inner knowing, and I'll tell you, Diane, there are a lot of folks, whether it's trauma or whether it's this generation growing up with electronics in their face at all times, they're not going to have a sense of who they are. They're going to need to do some unraveling of all of this external input and all of the societal crap that's put on them to get a sense of who they are. And you might need to work with a mentor, a coach, a psychotherapist, somebody that can help you get a sense of who you are.
So what do you think the most significant challenge is that people face when they're trying to learn to trust their intuition?
Overthinking. So that's
my problem.
Yeah, it's most of ours, because we are taught. When did people, nobody says maybe they did when you're little, but like, how do you feel? They say, what do you think? Like, when did that switch, right? So it's, right? So it's overthinking. It's your left brain. It's your left brain. It's your left brain. And it's, we could talk about the masculine, the feminine. We could talk about the patriarchy. We could say everything is sort of in our society, or many things. It's very, very much more important or beneficial to intellectualize things, to understand things through the left brain as opposed to the right brain, which is the creative, it's the imaginative portal, it's the portal to the intuition.
Damn the patriarchy.
Yeah. It has impacted this, right? Hugely. Yeah.
So can you give me an example in your life of when intuition had a big impact on you and what happened?
I absolutely can. So I was visiting. Okay. So my husband and I had been looking around the United States for a place to move, even before COVID. And we checked out the East Coast where we have family. We checked out North Carolina where we have family. I knew, though, that it was going to be West. I could feel my word for the year was expansive. And I had a feeling it was going to be West. And we looked in California for many reasons that didn't feel right. and I say feel right because that is how I work. We went to Colorado. I thought it's going to be Colorado because I didn't know much about the West, but we also had to be in a location where my husband could fly places and whatever. So we looked all over Colorado, and honestly, Diane, didn't feel right. We were in a great place outside of Chicago. We were like, this is an amazing. It's going to have to be a major upgrade, right? And so I had a friend call randomly. The universe had her call me and say, hey, come out and visit me. I'm in Santa Fe. I was like, oh, I've been to Santa Fe once years before. But by then, we had told the kids we're not moving. We had a high schooler. Everybody was like, yay, we're staying. So I go out there simply to visit my friend. And I'm out here where I am now in Santa Fe and New Mexico. And I'm hiking on a trail in March. And the sun was coming in, as you well know, these sensations. And all of a sudden, I got a whiff of the pine and the pinon trees. And literally, Diane, I had this like, this full body knowing. And I literally said out loud, I said, oh shit, I have to uproot and move my entire family, 3 children and a husband, a dog, everybody, sell a big house, like sell a house in Chicago, find a house. I didn't know how it was going to happen, but all of a sudden I had this knowing, and it terrified me. And I knew my kids were going to be so mad. I prided myself in the fact that when I say something, I never let my kids down. My kids can trust me. But I went back and I was like, oh my gosh, we have to move. And my husband was like, what? We told them we weren't moving. And that was that. And then we moved. And here we are 4 years later.
The crazy thing for viewers, just so you know, is I had a similar story. I'd never been here, locked down, had to leave New York City where I'd lived for 30 years. And like, I ended up here. And then I found out so many people like Martha and I just are like, I got to be in Santa Fe, got to be in New Mexico. Like, so few people really know about this state. But like,
know about this state.
yeah, I didn't either. I hadn't been here. I was here one night on a road trip, but ate one meal, like nothing, knew nothing. And all the road trips in the Southwest, I never came to New Mexico. I just think it's crazy because I keep meeting, it tends to be women, but woman after woman after woman. It's like, yeah, I don't know why, but I ended up here and I'm not going.
That's right.
Yeah. I know. I don't know if
amazing?
It's calling like all of us in to help heal.
I wonder. Yeah.
So how do you personally deal with moments of doubt regarding intuitive insights? Like, do you ever have times where like the example you just gave, that was solid. Like that was, do you ever sometimes aren't sure? And what do you do?
Yeah. So I'm not that I'm unsure. It's that my channel gets staticky. And so what I do is I walk and I clear it out. I create space. I create space in my calendar. I create space in my day. And I am a big nature person. That really helps me. And I'm a big walker. And now I know, Diane, walking, it activates the left and the right side of the brain, right? So my family would joke, if it's under 10 miles, Martha will walk there. Like I will. There's something that just, I feel energetically so much clearer. If I can't walk, I dance by myself to music, headphones, no one watching. And or there's a practice called the shaking practice. I studied this in my 20s, but it's a thing, but it's easy. Is you shake an arm, you can shake a leg. It moves the energy. And when I do that,
just FYI, it releases trauma, folks. Because I also talk about
somatic experience.
Dr. Bessel van der Kolk and Peter Levine, and how they talk about how shaking really releases stuff.
Yeah, you think about a wild animal, right? When they run and they're like being chased and they go into the bush and then they shake and then they move on. They've reset their nervous system. Yeah. Yeah. So I do that too.
How can intuition support someone who might be going through a significant life transition?
Well, I would say it supports you at the highest of levels because it connects you to your inner knowing of what is your next right step. So it would be everything. For me, during a big transition, it would be like, why wouldn't you want to see or smell or taste or hear? Like, if you have something that can guide you to your next right step, why would you want to cut that off? Why wouldn't you work to connect with that?
I guess I don't know if that would be as much the issue as, let's say you're going through a huge life transition and you just don't know what to do, and then you start second guessing everything.
Yeah. Yes, Diane, that's why you would want to do some of this prep. This is why you would want to begin to work to clear your intuitive channel. so that
I would
you
also say, well, I'm just thinking
have
that I
it.
would also say it's probably really important to work with somebody who sort of knows what they're doing.
When you are in a bit, so I've given this a lot of thought lately because people will come to me and they'll say they're in the middle of some big transition or big question or big challenge, right? And they'll be like, why can't I hear my intuition? I'm like, well, because you haven't cleared the channel before this.
Mm.
So, like, yes, then you would need an external guide. But if you work with your intuition and you begin to trust yourself and you get to know who you are in those quiet moments and you learn how to clear the channel, then it's not going to be that big of a deal for you to hear yourself. And if it is, you can work with someone who can reflect back to you and see things for you, but it will be an easier process for you because it won't be so tricky. Does that make sense? You will have practiced. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, and I guess I would ask or wonder when a person's going through a big life transition, they might just be clogged. Like
Hmm.
you could be
Yes.
anxious, you could be whatever.
Hmm.
I mean, what do you feel about if you can't make a decision, just make a decision and there is no wrong, you can correct, like
Yes.
rather than sitting in stasis? Like, would you agree with that?
Percent. Yeah. You
And
know
would
what?
that
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but even if you make the wrong what you ultimately think is the wrong decision, it's still helping you hone your intuition?
Yes, because I would say maybe there are no wrong decisions, and maybe you needed to make that decision for your soul's growth. That's what
Right.
I would say, and that
Okay.
releases us from the fear of perfectionism and from doing that. And if you're unable to do that, get an external guide, right? Get a healer, get a mentor, get a therapist, get a coach.
So do you find that intuition plays a particular role in creativity and innovation? And if yes, how so?
So for me, creativity and intuition are the same channel. So when I think of the way we can tune in to different types of knowing, the channel, the intuitive channel, is the same channel as creativity and innovation channel for me. And I would think for a lot of people. It's this quiet, it's this knowing that just drops in. It's information that drops in. It's like, did you ever read the book Big Magic by Liz Gilbert?
Audiobook.
Okay. She talks about how she's walking through a field, or somebody is, I don't know if it's her or a friend, walking through a field, and she gets this download of information and she sprints because she's so afraid, sprints back to the house to write it down because she's so afraid it's going to leave her. But it's kind of like that's the intuitive, it comes in through the same channel.
In Liz Gilbert's book, Big Magic,
Mm-hmm.
there's that part where there was a book she wanted to write and she started writing it, but she kept putting it off, didn't do it. And then her friend ended up downloading like the idea and wrote basically the same book. What is
Exactly.
that?
Teasing. She writes it, puts it into storage, physical storage, because she goes off and helps her husband immigrate or whatever it was. And then, yeah, then Ann Patchett comes up with the exact same story, and it was not a typical story. I think that is the universe, guides, whatever you want to call it is determined to get this story out for some
Mm.
reason, and they're going to drop into one person, and if that person isn't going to run with it, they're going to drop it into somebody else, which is why she runs across the field to write it down so she doesn't lose it. That's a separate story, but same book. Yeah. Yeah, I love that example.
So, how do you feel that intuitive practices can contribute to emotional healing and wellness?
Well, at the baseline, at the foundation of being really strongly, deeply, honestly connected to your intuition is self-trust, and it's about deep listening. So I would think the more you trust, honor, and value yourself, the more that you have healed. So I would say working on your intuitive channel would be a beautiful avenue in which to support healing your parts, yourself.
And I also just thought of this. I don't know if the question I posed really makes like what are intuitive practices?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are there specific practices one can do?
Yeah, I think it's like those little exercises.
Okay.
It's kind of, yeah, it's kind of like
It's nothing
testing.
complicated. It's
No,
not like
I want to simplify this for everybody. It is not complicated. It is not magical, even though I love magic and I believe in magic. It's not that. Intuition is simply because it is a sixth sense. It's like our body and our brain and our being energetically has the ability to connect with a source outside of ourselves that can bring in information that we can sort of bring in and see how it lands inside of us. I don't know if that makes sense, but if we have a clear sense of what's going on inside of us, when that information comes in, we'll know, is this good for me? Does this feel not right for me? Do you know what I mean? Like it's literally just learning how to tune into a different channel.
and if stuff's being downloaded and you're not sure, is it
Mhm.
good for me, not good for me? Should
Mhm.
someone just sit on it, like just not stress and be like, well, the answer will come when it's ready, or I know the answer's there. This is a challenge. Like, how do you address that?
Yeah, you could try that. If you don't have time, like you said before, you make a decision and you see how that
Right.
plays out. How does that? And you can also sometimes I'll play with my clients and I'll be like, okay, let's just make a decision right now. We make a decision and they're like, oh, that doesn't feel right. I'm like,
Yeah.
great, perfect. That's the information we were looking for, right? And so you can make a decision and then backpedal. And I always say for now, Diane, maybe the decision is right for these 30 seconds, but in the next 30 minutes, it will be a different decision. Give yourself permission. I understand if they're big life transitions, a little more thought and a little more all that will go into it. And that's why an external guide is helpful. But yeah, for small decisions, I think begin to practice and just make decisions and see how it feels.
I think that's so right on. Like it's just I think a lot of us can just get stuck in indecision,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just make a decision. You'll
Mm-hmm.
figure it out. I mean, I know for me, sometimes I can agonize over something, and in the end, it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. It's just making a decision.
That's right.
So, do you think intuition is important today, like in society and just overall? And if so, why?
Oh my gosh, because I mean, especially today, there's so much external chatter, right? There's so much going on. So for a person to be able to have clarity on the inside, and when I mean clarity, I also mean a bit of quiet, access to a bit of quiet and a bit of peace inside of yourself, and when that channel is clear, it's kind of like you'd be smelling a bad smell all the time if you let yourself get a lot of negative input or any sort of a lot of any smell or too much light in your eyes or whatever it is, right? So I think it's very important, very, very, very important.
So, do you think community plays a role in cultivating intuition? And if so,
Yeah.
how?
Yeah, the reason I think this is super important is because our culture here in the United States does not value or emphasize or support connecting with intuition. And maybe it's getting a little bit better in the last 10 years. The consciousness has changed a little bit. I was saying I was walking by a business, like a big business building the other day, and there was I heard a gentleman on a phone. He's dressed in a suit, and he was clearly having a business. He was very serious, and he said, "My gut tells me," and I was like, "Oh, good for you," right? Like,
You know what?
so
I want
yeah,
to throw this out. Is that things are changing, or that we are in New Mexico?
could be that. It could be that. Yeah, it could be that. But I was like, that is awesome. But yeah, I think being in a community of people that support you, yeah, so that you will stay on the path and you can reap the benefits of using this innate sense that kind of gets shut down in childhood, honestly, for most people. So yeah, yeah,
Right. So basically, we're born with intuition. We
absolutely.
tend to shut it down. A lot of it is because we're brought up in a society where it's intellect, it's all the heady stuff, and we lose touch with that. And is that what you focus on? Like you're focusing on helping people rediscover something they've always had?
Absolutely, exactly. Yeah. Reconnect with that. Because, as you know, traumas, big T or little t traumas, will also put a lot of static in the intuitive channel, and those kind of things, along with regular life experiences and societal conditioning, it really can disconnect someone from their inner knowing, by no one's fault. Of just honestly, it just happens.
So you gave us the example of moving from Chicago and using your intuition. Can you, just for people who are still trying to figure this out, do you have another example you could give us of how in your personal life you've used intuition for anything? Buying clothes, choosing, I don't know, which way to turn on a
Yeah,
path, etc.
sure. Absolutely. So I've got several. I could use my husband. That would probably irritate people because a lot of people don't have a sense of like what's right or wrong in dating. But by the third date, and I had dated a lot of people prior to that. I was in my early 30s by the time I met him, and I just knew by the third date. I just knew. But there's that. But another one was a lot of my family has advanced, like very advanced degrees. My dad's ABD, all but dissertation for his PhD. My mom is ABD for her PhD. My sister has a PhD. My brother's a lawyer. So it was kind of expected that my people kept saying, when are you going to get your PhD? When are you going to get your PhD? And I started doing a lot of research. I worked at Temple University in Philadelphia. I worked at the University of Vermont. And I was building up all this experience and credentials so that I could go get my PhD. And then I listened and I said to myself, I knew deep down, I didn't know what therapy was growing up. I grew up rural Michigan. There were no therapists around. I didn't know anything of that. But there's something inside of me that was always seeking out the metaphysical, was always seeking out something else, that there was something greater than the physical. I had this inner knowing, and I thought, oh, I could go get a PhD. I got great grades. I had a ton of experience. I could have gotten in anywhere. And I said, I just knew that wasn't the work that I was here to do. I had a knowing, I was here to be a healer, and I didn't even know what a healer was. And so that would be another example. I got the master's degree. That was what I needed. Been a therapist for 30 years and I've been on the professional intuitive path for almost 20. So, and I was doing it long before that. So I'm so grateful I listened and didn't put myself through that torture. That would have been unnecessary for me.
So if this is new to someone who's watching this, like the whole thing about intuition, is there like a piece of advice that you could share with people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I want to hit home that everyone has it and everyone has access to it. I am not special. Just because I grew up knowing who I was doesn't mean you can't learn who that is. And it's not doesn't have to be a huge excavation to get to know who you are in the quiet moments. It really doesn't. I want to say you can do this. And when you decide that this is important, it will be life-changing. It will be life-changing.
And is it something that one turns on and off? Like people who are like psychic. I've heard people say when they go to a party, they don't. They
Yeah.
can but like, is intuition always there and you can always tap into it?
Yeah,
Or
absolutely.
does it come at certain times?
Well, I think you can. I know what those people mean because I tune into a psychic channel when I work with clients. Can you see me looking up to the right? That's what I do when I tune into that channel. And I think the psychic channel might be a little bit different than talking about a sixth sense, which is our intuition.
Can you explain the difference as you see it?
Yeah. So for me, when I this is just me. I don't know if this is right or not, but are you talking about psychic versus intuition? Intuition is that inner knowing that I get about myself. Psychic information I get for other people. I think that's the difference for me.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
So is there anything that you're currently working on or doing that you'd like to share with listeners or viewers?
Well, thanks for asking. Yes, I am doing a podcast also called The Intuitive Voice. Myself and my colleague and friend, Dr. Angela Hebner, we are having a ball with that. And so if you have any interest in learning more about intuition, we are really delving into that and having a lot of fun talking about that. I also have a brand new website, marthaarnett.com. And I have something called a Voxer offering. Voxer is a walkie-talkie fun thing. Then I I've just recently created an offering where people can Voxer me, walkie-talkie me, pretty much all day long between the hours of 11 and 6 Eastern time, 4 days a week. You would sign up for me for a month. And if you're really working on building your intuition, or if you're walking through a big life challenge or big transition, and you want like an intuitive slash healer slash mentor slash coach slash therapist in your pocket, I wish I would have had that with my mentor when I was in the throes of learning. So I wanted to say that's a very exciting. I also offer one-on-one sessions called soul readings. You can sign up on that with me online. So there's lots of ways.
And where can we find your podcast? You didn't say, is it like everywhere? Is it on YouTube?
Yeah, but it should be. Yep, it should. I haven't uploaded it to YouTube yet, but it should be. It's on Spotify, Apple. It's all where all the podcasts are. It's also on my website, marthaarnett.com. I'm on Martha Soul Coach on Instagram. I'm on all the channels, all the different things. So people can find me.
Okay. Or you can just use your intuition and you'll find Martha.
That's right.
She's everywhere.
Yes, you can. Yeah.
Any last words you'd like to share with people?
I just really want to encourage people that I hope this does it, that it's easy. It can be fun. The exercises that I have, they're to be fun. I would like, Diane, I want to say, the imagination is the portal to the spiritual slash creative slash innovative slash intuitive realm. So the more you can loosen up your left brain, this is not my thinking. This is a lot of people say this in a lot of the intuition books, but my mentor, Sonia Choquette, she's an internationally renowned psychic. She and her daughter, Sabrina, who was my mentor I did a psychic apprenticeship with Sabrina for 4 years. We really worked on loosening up the intellect, meaning that all that serious clamping down thinking, intellectualized, right? And we played with the imagination, and the imagination, the more you can play with your imagination, the more you can loosen up that right brain, the easier and the more fun it will be. So, and that's a direct portal to your intuition. So I love to close with that. This is fun. This is light. And if you begin to work with it now, when you do have those big life transitions, big questions, big challenges come up, you'll be ready.
Yeah, I have to, because we're in New Mexico and I did not know there was a monsoon season, cloud watching and like shapes in clouds. And you can I can put on plays, like just watching the clouds. Like that is something that's really good. If you're thinking like, how can I loosen up my imagination? I have found that to be a fantastic way.
I never thought of that. That's a great way.
Yep. Monsoon season's coming. Just sit outside and watch.
It is.
The clouds grow here.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like East Coast where they just move across the sky. They actually it's amazing.
It is.
Anyway, Martha, I can't thank you enough for being here today.
Thank
you
you
to everyone who came to visit. Check out what Martha's doing. She's an amazing, amazing, amazing intuitive. And I will see you next time on Hearth Talks. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Diane.